Formex release a watch with a removable bezel? Have Bremont made a cool dive watch? There's a new watch that's inspired by a closed shop sign, and we discuss eBay authentication. Welcome back to Casual Watch Talk. You're joined by Sam and Chris. Chris, how have you been?
Pretty good. It's been raining here in California, and usually that's a bit of a hyperbole when you guys see it on the news that like California's getting rain because we're all, we're all wimps out here. But literally the entire state getting some rain yesterday.
That was one of the weird things of living in California, being from Manchester originally, where it rains all the time. Nobody in Manchester runs out of the house and they're like, oh, it's raining. But in California, it's quite the event, isn't it?
Yeah. Being originally from the East Coast, I'm the same way, where, they'll go live to the people on the street. They're like, what's happening? You're like, I got wet. My dog got wet. You're like, okay, back to you. So how have you been, Sam?
Yeah, I've been good. I've got a little apology. We have the podcast, we've been releasing it on odd days. It's because Chris and I we both work full time. So I'm not trying to make an excuse, but we get so busy in the week that we're trying to fit these podcasts in. So sorry it's gone from like no longer a regular kind of release date. We're still going to do one a week, but it might just be on an odd day. I'll try and do it on Thursdays. Is my aim.
Yeah, or maybe our advice maybe cash up a couple, and then whatever your listen day is, just make that your listen day, but you might be a few days behind.
Yeah, exactly. Or we could also mix in some pre-recorded interviews as well. I think I need to get back onto that. I think the last one was Mike France, wasn't it? Christopher Ward. But well, shall we dive into the show? Chris, do you want to do... we did Wristwatch Check last week, so should we do a watch obsession this week?
Okay. So my watch obsession, I'm gonna be getting a new chronograph added to the collection. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is. I'm going to leave the suspense for our odd day podcast in the future. But I will say it was something that was an eBay search of mine that I think I had. I have to check the date, but I think it's been 2 years where I've had an eBay search for this particular thing for like 2 years. And as another, maybe as another hint, I really liked the Zinn limited edition that just came out. The reverse panda that they just put out. Well, there's another limited edition that's out there that I have had my eye on, and hopefully we'll be going through a smooth eBay authentication process, and then I'll reveal it here. So, but we're going to be talking about eBay authentication. We're talking about some other stuff. So. That's been my obsession. I don't want to I sort of don't want to let it out of the bag until I have the whole story. But look for that.
A little tease there. And I've used this in the past. If anybody doesn't know, on eBay you can do a really precise search, can't you? You can put in keywords that you're looking for, things you definitely want to exclude from the search. That advanced search is quite sophisticated, and then you can save the search, can't you? Similar to like a Google alert.
Yeah, my saved searches, I want to say I have 2 or 3, and every now and then it's on the things, I think in the watch world, on the stuff that we collect. It's not that often that you get like an X33 that comes up, or like or that sort of thing. So that's one of my other searches. Give me, show me a search that'll probably never come up with anything, because I think it's set to like show me an X33 that's like, I think less than 3,000, and I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah,
again.
the new one,
so
the Skywalker.
Maybe it's time to update that for 2021 pricing. But so you can really specify it, and that's exactly the case. So I was super fortunate, and we'll cliffhanger it there.
Well, my watch obsession is I'm still waiting on the Seiko to come in. It's not even November yet, and I'm already itching for it. But I'm still really looking forward to getting it. If anybody's not been listening to the last couple of shows, I prepaid for the new Seiko Speed timer, they're calling it, but the quartz version, not the mechanical version. I got the SSC 815, which is the blue dial, the solar one. I think it's expensive for what it is. Also, I did pay retail because I had to pre-order it. But I'm really looking forward to. So hopefully it's sooner to the start of November than the end of November. But yeah, that's still a bit of my watch obsession there.
Yeah, available November. You're like, there's a lot of days in November.
Exactly. Well, why don't we dive into the show, and we'll start off with a dose of hit or miss. So, Chris, for your viewing pleasure on hit or miss this week, I have for you, Hodinky wrote a really nice review of this Hamilton watch. This is going to be our hit and miss. And I thought, wow, what a really thorough job they did of the review, and how selfless of them to promote Hamilton. And then right at the end of the article, you've got, oh, hello, buy here from our store.
Of course.
And they've really gone over the top with it as well. They've said it reminds them of the Black Bay, the Oris 65, and all of that jazz. But it's basically a 38mm pilot's watch. So smaller for a Hamilton, using an ETA movement. There's something about it. I don't like these. Do they call those cathedral hands?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right. With the, they're not Mercedes. They're with the tall, stacked sort of look to them. I think you're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's got one hand that's like a syringe hand for our audio listeners, and then the one hand that looks, I think it's called a cathedral hand. It also, I guess it looks like a bulb of garlic as well, maybe, or a tulip.
We'll just see the bulb of garlic.
It's got no date, so that's a big boo for me. But they're trying something new. They're trying to go down this minimalist pilot's watch. I love the case and the crown and the bezel are really doing it for me. If it had different hands and a date. But what do you think of this? Because they're going to be knocking this out. They're calling it a khaki, and they're going to be knocking this bad boy out at $995.
So I just checked cathedral hands. That's you are correct. So good pull there. And the styling is this looks like that vintage Hamilton that you could pick up from a seller in the United States, at least, because that's where they were all made for less than this costs. But also, if you wanted that look, here's your chance to get it in something that's modern and has modern seals and has a modern movement, is new and fresh. Is the super like railroad time vintage watch fad, if I can even call it a fad, has that design style faded? Are we peak that? Did we peak past that?
Well, I think so. And there's also a lot of micro brands that look similar to this as well. I like the fact that they've used the old Hamilton logo. I'm actually a huge fan of that. What's killing it for me, other than the date, is the price, because it's out of keeping with other Hamiltons, because you can pick up the standard khaki watch for $400, can't you? But this is they're calling this shop the story. It's nauseating, isn't it?
Oh, and they're saying, you said 7. It's $9.95.
Did I say 7? I meant 9. $9.95.
I think you said 7. Yeah.
See, even I couldn't
so that's okay.
Believe it, but yeah, close to $1,000 it is.
Okay. That's because it's 700. I would be tough to make a point there, but $300, so 1/3, 30% more of the price. That's a tough sell. It comes with our favorite color, radium lume. So
yes, I won't go on an old radium lume rant.
Yeah, don't have to go into that. I mean, everyone who listens to this show knows what we're talking about. So, I'll give it a miss. I kind of think that it's a little late to the party. If this came out maybe 3-4 years ago, but I think it would be competing with like the Murph watch from the movie
Interstellar.
And Interstellar and some other stuff that Hamilton did like 4 years ago. So if you love the look of the old, Hamilton railroad watches and you want a modern take that's going to be water resistant, waterproof, and go for it. But I'm going to say miss on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a great movement in it. It's anti-magnetic. It's an ETA. We're just comparing it against other Hamilton watches and in that category. So I'm also going to say it's a bit of a miss as well. So first news story, and we're going to start off with Hodinkee to start with. Just they did a great article on it. It's not poking fun at them again, unfortunately. But they did an article on Bremont. I think they're probably dealers of Bremont, I'm guessing. But what caught my eye is we always go back and forth on Bremont, don't we? But oh yeah, look, the Hodinkee shot. But what really caught my eye is this Argonaut Azure. There's just something about this. It's Bremont, synonymous, obviously, with aviation, military-inspired timepieces. So you can even see that. It's got the airplane's propeller on there. But there's something about the design of this that really caught my attention. I think it's too expensive. It's $3,695, but it looks like a traditional, for our audio listeners, traditional compressor-style case with straight hands. It's got a blue dial, which I'm sure is absolutely spectacular in person.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it because this is the Christopher Ward Talk podcast. Is it because it looks like the Christopher Ward super compressor? Because that's immediately what I thought when you popped it up.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to it, because it looks like the Christopher Ward super compressor and it has the date. So maybe that's why I'm so drawn to it.
Oh, there you go. Right. If only the super compressor have the date. Okay. Well, for what, $2,300 more than the, you can be yours.
Now, I definitely want to, let me just see if it's got the details in there. So it's got their movement in it, their modified caliber. I think they're all based on ETA. In fact, I'm more than sure that they are. I want to like them because they're a British watch brand similar to Christopher Ward, but I think they actually make a lot of the stuff, or they assemble a lot of the stuff and machine some of the components in the UK. So I really want to like them. I know they're extremely good to the British armed services. They get a stonking discount, I think, on these Bremonts, probably because they want to get these out into military members' hands. But it says here on Her Majesty's Armed Forces on the back. It's not. It looks vintage, but it's certainly not based on any vintage Bremont. They've only been around for a brief period of time.
Pete over at Not So Obvious Watches just did a video on Bremont, and I agree with a lot of the stuff that he mentioned, which was, if you haven't seen it, hopefully we'll link it down in the show notes. And he basically, to quickly summarize, it's sort of like, his take is kind of like, you could do better. He's kind of kept an eye on them and the stuff that they do, but the marketing tropes that these companies just fall into, where they are trying too hard to build this nostalgia and build this prestige with the marketing team and not actually with the product that they're making. And so anytime that happens, you sort of, you lose points, you gain points from your diehard fans, and also, from people off the street.
Yeah, we've talked about this loads of times, haven't we? It's definitely hard for a newer watch company. And I'm saying Bremont's new. They've probably been around, I don't know, 15, 20 years, maybe probably close to 15-ish. So they're not new, but that's a blink of an eye in terms of the watch industry.
Yeah, they're relative. Yeah, they're actually, I would say they're super new. So 2002.
Okay, so I was right, sort of 18 years. And they had a few little marketing faux pas. We've poked fun at them before. I've always thought that their prices were high. Somebody's obviously buying them because they're still around, and I want them to still be around. But I think for what you get for comparative Christopher Ward, for example, I know we keep using Christopher Ward, but even Hamilton, to use an example there as well, you're getting a lot more value for your money. And you can see that because this isn't just my opinion. You just look at pre-owned Bremonts, they don't retain their value.
You're taking 30% off of those,
yeah,
for sure.
Whenever I've looked seriously at Bremont, there's never been a question that I wouldn't buy it at pre-owned, because I just can't see the value in it for new, for example. But I wish them luck. I really like the look of that super compressor. But anyway, let's move on to the next story here. This is on Watch Pro. Formex did send me the press release for this. I just couldn't find it before the show. I was kind of scrambling around in my email. But they've got this new watch, which has actually been around for a while. But the shtick here, or the gimmick with this one, is it has a toolless bezel exchange system. This is nothing new. You used to get fashion watches that had these removable bezels. There is a pretty good, old Teddy Balbazar did a video on this as well, where he just pops the bezel off there, and it's that easy. The question,
I saw that.
Yeah, the question to you, Chris, is what do you think for a start? I mean, I don't know whether this is a gimmick. This is cool. If you could switch it around so there was like a dive bezel or a 12-hour bezel, that might be cool. But I'd be worried about the thing popping off.
I feel this is a little gimmicky. It's a little gimmicky, and a little problem for a solution, looking for a problem.
Yeah.
So I mean, do I coordinate my outfits via color very occasionally? Is that do people do that? Yes, for sure. I don't know if that's something that I would do. And then I'd be petrified that I'd lose it. Yeah. And then so you scratch one up really good, and now you're just stuck with the green one. So then you gotta just, are they gonna make replacements? Can you get like a bunch of different ones? Are they gonna be like Pokemon? Can you like catch special colors?
It's funny you should say that, Chris, because if we hop back over onto Teddy Balbazar, he's got a little note here. For the first 100 orders, you can receive a separate bezel variant free of charge using Reef Bezel. So Teddy's getting in on the action here. Good luck to him, actually. I would only ever poke fun at Teddy because I'm jealous of how good his channel is and how well he's doing selling watches, presumably.
Yeah, it's a little too gimmicky. If you love this, I mean, I think the Reef as a dive watch, I think it looks pretty cool. But I don't think the exchange bezel would be putting me over the top, whether I liked the look of it or not. And I think steel sports watches or steel dive watches are kind of like whatever color they are is whatever, unless we're talking about like an orange Doxa or, some heavy hit color. It's kind of, it's not, I don't think it's going to be like clashing with your outfit. And then I have not had someone point out that my bezel matches my outfit. So I guess if that had happened, maybe it'd be for me. But
let's dive on to our next story. And that story, as with all of the stories that we talk about, are in the show notes. So check those out. And while you're there, hit that like and subscribe button if you don't mind. We'd love to have you on there. And join the Facebook group. There you go. Got all the plugs in one go. So, Chris, being a watch reviewer, I get emailed a lot about watches over the years. And we mentioned this before about the tenuous backstories. There's also a lot of stories that go along with the reason why certain watches are designed a certain way. Now, out of all the weird ones that I've ever heard of why a watch is designed the way what it is, I think this one takes the absolute biscuit here. This is on Watch Pro, a watch that is inspired by a shop's closed sign. So for our audio listeners, if you've ever seen that blue shop sign where it's got the red super fat hand that says we will be returning back at 10 to 1. It was so inspired by this shop sign that they've made a watch that looks like one. I'm at a loss here, Chris. Like, make sense of this for me. Make sense of it.
So there's a watch based on the Swiss railroad, and so this is the gap we're trying to fill. I will say again, for our audio listeners, I'm pretty sure you can picture this in your mind. Like, this is when you go into like Staples or Office Max and you go past a shop that's closed for like lunch or something. This is the like blue with the bright red puffy hands that is like, will return. I gotta say they did a pretty good job. It definitely reminds me of that. That style though, I mean, it looks like a toy. It looks like a toy watch. If you want a conversation piece, you got it. Here it is.
It certainly does look like a toy, and you're right. The hands they've gone to an incredible amount of detail to make it look like one of these shop return signs. It's got 1,000 feet of water resistance. It's on Watch Pro. They're knocking these out for 500 and something pounds, so they're going to be closer to probably the $700 mark. It doesn't say the movement, and I've not really clicked through it to work it out. I'm guessing it's going to be the NH35A or equivalent Miyota.
Okay.
So it's a kind of a micro brand. Actually, let me do some on the fly research here, because they have it here. So it's going to be $775 and let's just see if it'll actually tell us what movement is going to be in here. You see them automatic, so it's the Miyota 9039. So it has actually got pretty decent movement in it.
Not too bad for a brand.
But talk about, they're living this design, aren't they?
Oh yeah, that's funny.
They're not messing around on this design at all. But
yeah, no, I mean, like I got to give it to them. I feel like they leaned in. I mean, it was like, this is what we're gonna do. This is the welcome sign.
It's got a screw for lugs, so it's pretty heavy duty. They're expecting somebody to live in this watch. Oh, and I didn't notice that before, but the dial is luminous. The entire
it's full loom. Full
dial.
Loom. All
this
right.
is almost.
Well, I mean, you're going down 1,000 feet, so why not?
This is almost like a Moser level. A Moser level troll, isn't it? For
a little bit. Yeah. It again. I got to give it to him.
Yeah, maybe we should. The last two we could have done for hit or miss, couldn't we? Like the Formex could have been the hit or miss.
Yeah,
and this
exactly.
Watch inspired by this.
It's the hit or miss. Yeah, it's the hit or miss show.
It is the hit. Or, well, don't say that because people will be commenting. This show was definitely a miss for me.
yeah. Yes. Put that down in the comments.
Yeah, let us know.
Somebody comment something.
Yeah, comment down below. Is this show a hit or a miss in general?
Yeah.
Anyway, well, let's dive onto Fortis. Now, Fortis, they've always made this watch called the Marinemaster. So Marinemaster, which sounds like maybe a Rolex, but they've always had this, and it was based on their B42 space watch. And basically, all they did was just put this very aggressive bezel on it. Have you ever seen one of these in person?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. They did this one. They also did this one in the different colors. Speaking of different colors, I think the different bezel colors too.
They did. There was like an orange one, wasn't there? And I even think the Mission to Mars one might have been a variant of that with a quite an aggressive bezel on it. Well, they've gone and completely redesigned this watch. Watch Pro did a great article on it. There's a new 44mm version and a 40mm version. Let's just show you on their actual website. A very distinctive design. It's got a steel bezel. If you go for the 44, it's only available with an orange rubber band and orange around the reholt. But if you go for the other variants here, you've got got like a green version with a green dial. I think that one's pretty nice. And they've partnered with Kinesi, who make the in-house movements for the Tudor Black Bay 58. They work with Norcane. The 40mm coming in at 2,850. The 44mm is 4,150. I think there is a difference in the movement between the two. But we had a bit of a debate on the Facebook group on this one. I was expecting Robert, who is our dive watch aficionado, to really like this. He was mixed, but Dave, who writes for Fratello Watches as well, so shout out to Dave, he's seen these in person and he thinks they're awesome in person. Well, it's just, what do you think, Chris, on these?
I like it. I like their new direction, the texture on the dial. They are striking out into new territory here. So the movement is kind of telling. The new owner, when he took over, I think 4 or 5 years ago, wanted to make some big changes, and one of them was chronometer certify everything. And so he's definitely moved into that. So I see the chronometer certification on it, on the dial. Their design language is changed completely, drastically than what they were doing before with the ones we were just talking about. Where it's just this super aggressive. It feels soft. It feels the design feels smart, I'd say. I was looking at also, did they have some other colors here too? They have like a turquoise or a serenity blue is what they're calling it.
Yeah, so I think what the difference is here is that the 44 has got the Kinesi movement in it that's chronometer certified, and then the 40 has a different movement in it. I think that's the
I see. And they're just writing, on the dial it just says performance instead of chronometer.
Yeah, so I think so that's what the delta is. Oh, annoyingly, it's got a 21mm lug width. But anyway, for on the 40, but there's certainly so you'd have to go with the 38 hour power reserve performance movement featuring robust anti-magnetic balance wheel for outstanding performance.
I am going to strike out and say not even great just for me. Like, I saw that color blue, and that is like that. I think that's an attractive woman's watch, something that it seems like they're marketing in that direction, that color. Certainly, gray, green, unisex, but that blue in particular, I mean, I'd rock that blue, but they're kind of reaching out there, and the design is not different. Yes, it's just a little bit smaller size, but that's not a shock, and it's not different than it, like, your big orange Breitling. So what is it? The
endurance, like the endurance ones.
No, what's their current dive watch? Shoot, just watched the video on it. Yeah, so the Breitling Super Ocean 2, where the big one comes in orange, but then the smaller version comes in all the different colors, sort of reminds me of that. So, but I think that's a good way to do it. And the design is not different from the larger watch to the smaller watches. It's the same information, the same dial style, etc. So it doesn't come off as like, this is a dainty girl's watch, or this is a beefy men's watch. You're like, it doesn't say that. It doesn't have to say that. It just, that's one of the reasons why I really like this design.
Yeah, and they've definitely got that Doxa kind of sub 200 styling to them, where they're not afraid of color, but they seem to be a lot. I mean, it would be great to see one of these in person. There's actually a Fortis dealer here in Winter Park in Florida, where I live, which is good, because I always hated the idea of watch buys just having the complete monopoly on Fortis. But so they do. I'd love to see one in person. I'm going to do a bit more research into the 40mm version, because it seems like there is a delta movement delta. But I would naturally go for the 40mm, but the 44mm seems to have a lot more going for it. But what do you think of the price range on this 44? So it does have an in-house Kinesi movement in there, but so does the Black Bay 58.
Right. Yeah, so
and that's a lot cheaper.
that was the next thing I was going to say. So I think they're asking too much for the big one, and maybe they're priced closer on the 40 mil. I feel like they're reaching a little too far for that chronometer certification. Knowing what I know about how much that costs. Now, certainly an in-house movement from Tudor or from the same manufacturer, I'm sure is not cheap, and I'm sure you're getting some of that. But I'm highly suspect that it's making up $2,000 of the additional cost of the watch. I don't think that's
exactly.
the case.
And go back, guys, and watch the Christopher Ward interview I did, where he says that it's only £50 or something to get a watch chronometer certified.
Little too much of an ask at that 4,000 plus price point on the big boy, but pretty okay. 2,800, I think is okay. I mean, there is plenty out there that's less expensive in a Swiss 3-hander with a date. But for the design and for the look, I think they're okay there.
Well, let's dive into a bit of a main topic, and it's one that I'd not talked about, and I keep forgetting that we've not talked about it. But if anybody remembers, a while ago, I bought a Omega X33. I did like it, but when I got it, it was one of those where I wasn't really feeling it in the end. So I ended up deciding that I was going to sell it. Also, we're trying to buy a house and stuff, and I was getting, when you look at a watch versus a deposit for a house, I was just trying to get the money together. And there were certain things that just I didn't love about it. That the screen is not that legible, the white hands. But anyway, I'm not doing a review of this watch. But I decided to put it on Chrono 24, and it didn't actually sell on Chrono 24. Now, I'm a big fan of Chrono 24. They sponsored the show before, full disclosure. But if a watch doesn't sell, you can't remove the listing for 3 months. So you basically have to wait 90 days. And it is a difficult watch to sell because there's not a lot. And I paid a retail price for it, so I paid top of the market for it. I bought it actually from a retail store. But after it didn't sell on Chrono 24, I thought, why not try the eBay authentication? So here it is on eBay. I did all the photos and everything, and then eBay automatically added the authentication service. I didn't have to action it. I think they're going to start charging it because at the moment it says free for a limited time.
Yeah, and the price point is 2,000, right?
It has to sell for over 2,000, yeah, for it to be eligible. Now, as you saw just then, I put it on for 2,500. I think I paid 2,006 for it. And I put it on for 2,500. It didn't sell for that. In fact, I can't even remember what it did. I've probably blotted it from my memory because it probably annoyed me that it went for a lot less. But so you sell it, and honestly, there's not much to really say about it. It's fairly uneventful, which means that I think that that's actually a great thing because I just packaged it and sent it to just a person. It wasn't a watch store or anything like that. It was I think it was a lady's name. And I sent it off to her. And then I just got an email saying, your watch has been authenticated. I don't know whether the seller got more about the authentication service, but I don't think they did. I don't know what I was expecting, Chris, whether like a report or something.
So, all right. Well, so from the other side of that, the only reason why I knew it was on its way to the authentication service is that the seller told me that and sent me a picture of the box and basically was like, "Hey, just to let you know, it's on the way to the authenticator." So from the purchaser standpoint, I didn't, it said it was on its, it said, you'll get free authentication, and that has been started, shipped, but beyond that, there was really no information. I found out it was going to some random business in Ohio. And so, it's kind of like as we dig into this, I definitely I would love to, if anybody knows, we have to like do some digging, and I know some people that maybe might be able to help us. But if anybody knows someone who's done eBay authentications, I'm curious. I'd love to.
I think that would be a great interview, to have a person that actually authenticates the watch, because I wonder whether it's independent people who are authenticating the watches, but they're not actually part of a jewelry store, because this is what would probably be the difference between Chrono 24. There's no authentication, but they hold the money in escrow. eBay has this authentication service, but it's not that transparent about how they authenticate it, or a report. They don't do a condition report.
Yeah, and there's not like, I don't know of a, like, essentially like, oh well, we'll use our experts to authenticate it, but like I don't know what the standard of that is. Is it like people who have joined the New York Watchmakers Association, or
Well, this is the thing, and you also can't be an expert in every watch, can you? We've talked about this before, but and then the third option, obviously, is you've got like Chronex and Crown and Caliber, which is now part of Hodinkee, Bob's Watches, where they receive the watch in and then they service it, and you actually can see the process of it, or at least there's YouTube videos of the process of them polishing it. So there's different degrees. I think eBay might have the edge because they're not charging it for the moment, although the seller fees, I'm sure, and I need to quantify this, but I'm sure it would have been more than what I would have paid on Chrono 24. Because
yeah, they're getting up
like
there, especially with the,
because they're doing the whole payment thing now, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they've moved into taking payments directly, and then the fact that they're doing this authentication service, which they're saying is obviously adding value, which it seems like it's doing it, and but they're moving hard into this like used luxury watch space, which they do a ton of business in. So
it's weird, isn't it? Because eBay, when it first came out, it was very much seen as a cultural phenomenon. And remember films at the time. I remember there was a film, was it called SWAT or something, where the big joke in it was that they had this police battering ram to get into a door, and then somebody's like, "Where did you get that from?" And they're like, "eBay." And that was like the joke, wasn't it? It was like a popular jokes in films.
Like 10, like maybe 15 years ago. It was like, you could just, the joke was like, you could just buy anything on eBay. And it was in a pre-Amazon world, So nowadays, like, it's obvious that you can just get everything you want on Amazon. You're like, you would get the battering ram from Amazon, I'm sure. Like, I know friends that have ordered tube steel, like to build a roll cage in a car, like this level of like ordered from Amazon and had it shipped to the like two sticks of steel, etc. And you're just like, what? And like industrial equipment anyway. So yeah, maybe that was the joke back in the day. I also want to hear the sob stories. Like I want to hear, like, here's the show. I'll make the Netflix pitch. Here we go. So eBay verifier, eBay authentication service, okay, that does 300 watches a month, and then they just highlight the ones that are like where the watchmaker looks at it, like opens up the box and is like, oh my god, what is this? and then trying to figure out like where this dial came from, and it's just like a Frankenstein watch.
It would make a good YouTube channel, that. And there's funny because there's a lot of I've been really, probably more than I should, on TikTok. It's so addictive. I'm thinking of doing stuff on TikTok like mini watch reviews, guys. I don't know how many people watch it for that type of thing, but I might give it a go. But there's people that are doing that, like eBay returns, and also where they're like ratting out customers. There's this one guy who does this hilarious bit where people send him in conversations of Facebook Marketplace, So, and then he reads them out, and they're hella. I mean, trying to sell anything on Facebook Marketplace is nauseating. He does this one where, I think there's another TikToker where it does Facebook Marketplace if it was in real life, and basically somebody knocks on the door and says, "Is the bench still available?" And the person's like, "Yes," and they're like, "Okay," and then just walk off.
And then we just walk right. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. It's $300. No low bids. Okay, I'll give you $20 for it.
I'll give you $50 for it.
You're like, what? There's another one with where they buy lots, like eBay lots, and then it's just like they just open it up. I think they do it like on Amazon and some other stuff where they just buy the lost return box where they buy a pallet of just returns, and you're just like, what did we find? What's in this magic box?
Well, yeah, we went off on a bit of a tangent there, but
yeah. So back to eBay seller. So you sent it off to the authenticator, and then you were kind of done at that point.
Yeah, they sent it fully insured with the. I presume they put something in the box. I'm guessing to say it's been authenticated. But yeah, that was it. Completely uneventful. So I would recommend it. I mean, it's purely based on one experience with them. But I've had good success with Chrono 24. Now I've had good success with eBay as well.
Yeah. Well, on the buyer side, we'll see. I've heard. I did a quick search, and there are some horror stories out there, but. If you search, everything on the internet is, it's not the 1,000 people who had no problem with it that are complaining, that are writing the horrible review with pictures. It's just the one guy.
Yeah, and it's not a condition report either. It's not this watch is in the condition that the seller said it was going to be in. It's is this watch real or not?
Yeah. Is it authentic? Is it? Are you buying? Is it authentic? So yeah, we'll have to dig a little bit, see if we can get some more there. And again, the stories. I would love to hear because there has to be the bin, like we said, maybe 2 weeks ago. There has to be the bin over at Bob's Watches. That's just this is not a Rolex. This was never a Rolex, and I know that you bought it from a reputable dealer in Times Square, but no. So I'd love to hear some more of those stories.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, and Chris, we were joking about this story before, but just in case he's listening, a big shout out to Keanu Reeves, who gave all of the top people that were in the wrapping up John Wick 4, which I can't wait for it to come out. They're absolutely fantastic, those films. He gave them all Rolexes with engraved John Wick on the back. I don't know how he managed to get the brand new Submariner Rolexes, but
just picked up all of them.
I don't know how many he gave away.
Just grabbed all of them.
Was it 5 or something he gave away?
I saw 5 or something in the picture, but that was just who knows if they all made it to the wrist shot. I don't know.
Absolutely.
And he kept one for himself.
Yeah, so shout out to Keanu Reeves. Welcome on the show anytime.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, guys. Well, as always, we really appreciate you watching and listening, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.